And we're back.
Alright, topic number 2.
Topic number 2. What we have learned from 5 months of living full-time in a camper.
Is not what we expected.
Yeah,
okay. There are things that we didn't expect. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely, there are things that we expected and anticipated, and that's exactly what it's been. And then there are things
I do not
that
enjoy
we didn't.
taking out the composting toilet.
And I do not enjoy doing laundry with our little
Yeah.
bitty washing machine. For 6 people
I honestly
on a
didn't
farm.
think that taking out the composting toilet would be that big a deal, and that it wouldn't necessarily happen that often.
Mm-hmm.
But
with 6, well, not everyone. We still have kids in diapers.
Right.
So
But
that doesn't apply to them. But with that many people, like...
there's a lot of pooing and potty stuff going on. Yeah. I mean, and we're potty training one of the smalls. Sunshine is going through potty training right now, so that's even more that's now being added in. But yeah.
So that was an unpleasant, or not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unpleasant, but it's just
I
not...
expected it to not be an enjoyable job, but I didn't expect to dislike it as much as I do.
But I think overall, the composting toilet has worked very, very well.
Yes,
like better than
for
anticipated.
sure.
Like we
For sure.
actually were kind of like unsure at the beginning. We were like, okay, is this actually gonna work? Like, are we gonna have
Right.
to come up with a plan B like a month in? And no, I mean it works really,
does
really
work
well.
really
It's
well.
very effective, and we honestly we don't even think about it anymore. Like as we were potty training Sunshine, then we took her to the church the other day, and she was like going potty, and I flushed the toilet, and she goes, "Mommy, the water flushed it down." I was like, "Yes, sweetheart, that's how a toilet works."
Yeah. And
She was so used to like, you know, scooping the dirt on top of her business.
Yeah.
So that was funny. That
And it was kind of made a thought of, you know, Sunshine and Giggles at least will probably both end up being potty trained on a composting toilet, and will not.
so when we build the house, like they're
yeah.
gonna be like freaked out that we have like water in our toilet.
Though we have even discussed going with a composting route, even in the actual house.
Like a legit composting.
A legit,
like
not
normal.
Not just the version we have right now.
Yeah, but legit ones.
So
But yeah, so that
for
was-
those of you new to the room, if you don't know what our composting toilet system is at the moment, it actually is just a 5-gallon bucket with a pretty little frame thing around it that I built. We have a video on that build. I'll see if I can link it to this video. Maybe, I don't know. It's a composting toilet video. You can go back and look at it.
Look up
Yeah.
pretty much any of them.
But anyway, it's a 5-gallon bucket with a bag in it. We did decide to go with the bag. We did not have the bag at the beginning of the process. It was just the peat moss in the toilet with the business. And I discovered very quickly that was not going to work. That was not a route I wanted to continue. You're making our video move. And that we definitely needed something a little easier to empty. And so, yeah, I actually
It didn't have to be cleaned every time.
Right, yeah.
So you basically take it out like you take out trash.
Take it out like you take out the trash, put a new bag in it, put a little bit of dirt in it, and good to go.
And we're actually getting ready to switch to sawdust instead of peat moss.
Yeah.
Mainly because peat moss, because it is a form of dirt, it has a slight odor to it already. Whereas sawdust has an odor, but it smells
better
good.
odor.
It doesn't smell like dirt.
Right.
And so we're actually, and we can get sawdust for free.
Yes.
We don't have to go and buy peat moss.
There's a mill not too far that actually allows me to come
Get truckloads of...
as long as I'm hand shoveling it myself and I take care of it, they'll let me come and shovel in as much dirt or as much sawdust as we want. So we were using that for the composting area, and we will be switching over to using that for the composting toilet as well. So,
all right, so
that's
laundry.
my big thing.
Laundry is the one thing, it's the bane of my existence at the moment. I've always loved doing laundry, and I have line dried clothes for quite a few years now. We kind of like switched because it saved us money and we didn't have to use our dryer all the time. I would pretty much only use a dryer like in the dead of winter, and even then I had drying racks inside of our laundry room. So I mean, like, it was pretty much if we only needed something like immediately that we use the dryer. So we would go months without it.
Or like in the winter if something was really big, like a blanket or something like that.
And so I love doing laundry. You know, it's not, I enjoyed doing that. And hanging up was never a big deal. But we have a washing machine that I've actually thought about doing like a little how-to camper tutorial of a miniature washing machine that we have. So I might do that sometime. But it basically has a washing compartment in it that you fill up with water and you put your clothes in, and it holds like, it doesn't even hold 1 day's worth of clothes for our family. I mean, like, I'm doing it holds
about a third of a day.
Probably about a third of a day, especially when you're including like any blankets or accidents that little kids have at night, towels.
Because we're potty training, and because we're also training others on
so
how to not
minimum
have to go to bed
3
at night.
loads a day. Ish. And so on average about 3 loads. And so you fill that up with water, it agitates, then you have to manually switch the dial and it drains out. You turn it back and you fill it up with water again for the rinse cycle. Now if it's really, really dirty, I will do 2 rinse cycles, because it's nasty looking. And then
it's
you have to drain it again.
We actually talked about, sorry, I'm interrupting your thing.
You're interrupting my thing.
And I'll let her get back to it. But this just struck me as incredible. The color of the water that drains off.
So this isn't just like for this washing machine. Like all washing machines like do this because you just never see the water that's being drained off because it's all doing it in one cycle.
Yeah.
And the water that comes off of your dirty clothes is disgusting.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's the reason that I sometimes will rinse it twice if it's extra dirty, because it's just nasty. So yeah, that was kind of surprising. I was like, ew, like people wash their laundry like that and they don't even realize how nasty it is.
Right, and like, yeah, we really talked about like once we get a bigger washing machine for the new house, making sure it's a really good one. Yeah. That way, and not going with just a cheapo route. Yeah. Because we don't want the water just like halfway washing the clothes. Gross. Nasty. So anyways, then you take the laundry from the washing compartment and you put it into the spinner. Now the spinner holds much less than what you're washing. So about half. So you're taking half the load and putting it in the spinner. It spins everything out really good. It's very effective. Really good. And then you take it out and you put the second half in there and it spins it all out. And then you have to take it outside and line dry it. So that's a long process, mainly not because it takes a long time for each cycle to work, but you're manually doing everything. You're switching everything.
And so like I'm constantly walking back and forth and cycling out each cycle. And then you do that times however many loads of laundry you do that day. And laundry is no longer my favorite chore any longer. I'm tired of it. For the first time, I did take 1 load of laundry to my parents' house a couple weeks ago because we were so behind because I think it had maybe been raining or something. So we had a bunch of wet towels, and then the kids had been wetting their beds because they were like potty training and stuff. And I had so much laundry, and I'm like, can you please come over and use your washing machine? Yeah.
And she got it all done in 2 loads.
2 loads. Yeah. All of it. It would have taken me all day long with ours.
It would have taken more than a day.
Oh yeah, probably 2 days.
To do that amount of laundry.
So needless to say, I am very much looking forward to the day when we build and I have a real washing machine again.
After this experience, we have actually discussed options of trying to get water into the shed and hooking up a washer dryer unit, or at least a washer unit.
Except we have no room in the shed, so I don't know if that's gonna happen.
It was a fantasized thing.
Yeah. So those are two things that we kind of like were surprised by, and didn't necessarily anticipate. What else? Like good or bad?
So
or indifferent.
Maybe one more negative thing, and then we'll start talking about positives. Yeah, we'll get to the positives. I promise, because there are positives. But one more negative just to get it out of the way. Absolutely. So a negative, at least as far as in the camper goes, is the amount of dirt. And it's something that wasn't really considered, and that's why I'm bringing this one up, because it wasn't something we really had thought about. Because we were outside people before. We spent a lot of time outside. We spent a lot of time out in the woods, or not necessarily in the woods, but out in the field, and we just were outside. We worked, and we had a garden. We did woodworking projects. We did all that kind of stuff out before, and so we didn't really think about it being a big deal as far as the amount of dirt and just outside stuff that would get tracked in. And we don't typically wear shoes in the house. I mean, we typically shoes and boots, get left at the door and come in, except for me. I'm the worst at obeying that rule. But it just was very interesting, and Winnie probably can feel it better than I can, but how quickly everything would get dirty. And that is...
I had the misconception that because we were going to be living in a smaller space, that meant that there was going to be less to clean. And that is true, like there's a much smaller space to clean. But how quickly it gets dirty is incredible. Like, incredible. How much dirt ends up on the floor, like, right after I've swept and mopped. And just the fact that, like, little messes, like, a child gets out a set of toys. Like, in a larger house, you wouldn't see that as a mess, because it would just be in, like, a small area, and you have a huge house, or a larger house, at least. Any house bigger than this is big to us now. Right. But, like, here, you have a set of toys out in the living room, or it's spread out throughout the house, and it looks very, like, messy, and you're tripping over it, and so little messes look very large in the small camper. And so, like, constantly just, like, trying to keep things picked up all the time was something, like, I did not expect. I was like, oh, cool, like, we're going to live in a small space. We have less stuff. Like, I'm not going to have to, like, clean all the time. And I'll have, like, so much time to do other things. No, that didn't happen.
Something that a positive connected with that, though, is that we really have been able to work with the kids on... when you get something out, you put it back when you're done, and that is something that has to happen.
We're constantly working on.
That is something that it's a work in progress.
But it's been a training, like a training thing for them to learn.
If you get it out, put it back when you're done, and that's just been something that's in the process of being trained, but definitely a good thing to be working on and to be training as we're moving forward with that. Yeah.
But once the house does get, like, when you set your mind to clean it, it doesn't take that long. So that is definitely a positive. Like, it doesn't take you all day to clean your house. Right. So that has been a good thing.
So that, positive to there. So starting on positives. Positive things about living in a camper.
Okay. What's your first positive?
So one of my first positives actually is the small space. That the small space does two things. One, it brings everybody together. I mean, you can't help but be close to each other, which I know a lot of people are probably like, that's not a positive. What are you talking about as being positive?
It has its moments. There's definitely time where you're like, I just need some space.
And that's when it's nice to have almost 11 acres. Yeah. Because then you can go and be away.
11 acres and a hammock.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have a chance to go and just have some alone time. Go to the shed, go to the hammock, go down to the woods, go out to the barn. Yeah. There are spaces to get alone. But when we are here, it makes for a lot of close time. Whether it's playing a board game or everybody pile on top of mom and dad's bed. And just being able to be close and be able to enjoy that proximity.
We have a intruder who's supposed to be in bed.
So, being close, being in that proximity, but also the fact that the small space makes what you can do inside kind of limited, which also pushes us outside more. And we thought our kids spent a lot of time outside before. Now they really spend a lot of time outside.
Yeah.
And it really was kind of at the beginning of the summer. We have a couple kids who burn sort of easy, that they have a tendency to burn rather than tan.
Like sunburn.
Sunburn, right. Sorry. I guess I should specify. But after the amount of time everyone has spent outside this year, everyone's tanned.
People over tell me, they're like, I've never seen you tan, because I burn really bad. I'm like pale in the wintertime, and then I burn really bad in the summertime. I like never get tan hardly at all. They're like, oh my goodness, you're so tan this summer.
Yeah, and little man is the same way. I mean, he would always burn, he would never tan. And he's tanned this summer.
Sorry,
Everybody is tanned this summer. So
being outside
and enjoying
in the small space like has been good. And like just being away from everything, because where we're at, I mean, we're not like in the middle of nowhere, but we are a good like almost 15 minutes either direction from town. There's one town this way, another town the other direction. And so it's not like you can just be like, oh hey, you know, I want a bag of cookies or something, and so go like run down to the store like 5 minutes or 2 minutes down the road.
Right.
But it's nice most of the time, because we're not just like running all over the place and just doing a bunch of stuff. We kind of are just like in our own little area.
Yeah.
And even neighbors are not close to us. We have one that's kind of like behind us, but even then there's like trees that are kind of surrounding them, and so it's very private.
And everybody pretty much keeps to themselves around.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too. We're like
we
slowly creep down.
So I like the fact that we're kind of like, in a way, we're in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, and the stars at night are so fun to be able to see.
Because there's no lights, because we do not have like a dusty dawn light or anything out here.
And none of our neighbors do either.
Yeah, and so it's at nighttime it's pretty dark, but the sky is just gorgeous. Like there are stars and galaxies that you can see that like I never realized that you could see with your eyes.
No,
because it's just so
incredible.
Brilliant. And because we're in the middle of a field and there's no trees around us, like you can just look up and look everywhere. We camped out one night on the trampoline with the kids and showed them constellations, and it was super cool. So that's another like really fun thing of being out here.
Yeah. I've really just enjoyed the work of being out here. It has been some challenging, and it was a huge step of faith to come out here and to leave the job that I had and come out here where I'm teaching online, and so I'm not necessarily having regular sort of income in the way that you would think, and we're relying somewhat on the garden, which actually didn't produce any income this year other than just being able to provide less for us to have to buy. And it was a very scary, really, experience and trying to do that, but getting to see God provide, getting to see so many ways, and again and again and again, how God has provided, how God has, you know, we need this much money, and I'll either suddenly get a whole bunch of classes and you know, it'll fill up the amount that we need, or someone saying, hey, I feel like, you know, God just laid this on our heart to give you. I mean, just so many different things that have happened that where God has provided and God has shown himself absolutely.
We've talked about this before. Last year we had a video on like God's provisions, and when we were still living at the old house, and I talked about how I would keep a notebook of all God's blessings, and it helped teach me thankfulness. And so that's something I still do, is I still like write down. I try to keep track of almost everything like that I consider like a blessing from God, even just little things that you wouldn't think about. I still write those things down
Yeah, and then
regularly.
just people offering to allow me to borrow equipment and us to borrow different infrastructure type stuff that we just don't have yet. And being able to get resources like wood to do stuff, the sawdust that we can now go get and use. I mean, it's just been so amazing to see see God's provision and see that. And that's something that yes, God can show himself and provide, and did provide when we were in the old house, but
when you need him to provide, then there's nothing else that you can. There's not much else that you could really do, and so you have to just be like, okay, God, like I have to. I mean, I could go out and do something myself, but this is an opportunity for me to trust you and trust your provision. And every single time...
being able to just go, God, I'm doing exactly what I believe you want me to be doing.
It's not about being lazy. It's not about being like, well, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing and see what God's going to do. Like, that has nothing to do with it. It's like, it's doing what we know that God has called us to do, and be like, okay, we're doing what we believe you called us to do, and so we're going to trust that you're going to take care of everything. And he has every single time.
It's been very, very awesome to see how God has provided.
Yep.
So definitely, probably one of the biggest pluses, I would say, of moving out here is getting to see that, getting to see God show himself strong, God show himself able to help and able to be there and wanting to be there and wanting to help in so many ways. So definitely one of the biggest blessings of moving out here in the camper. And that sort of doesn't have anything really to do with actually physically living in the camper, other than the fact that it's a completely different environment, it's a completely different kind of home, and we've been told so many times, you guys are nuts, you guys are crazy, I can't believe you're doing that, and they're probably all correct.
But we're enjoying the process of being crazy.
It's been so much fun and so enjoyable and so.
And our kids are thriving in the environment of like being out here, and they have learned a lot of skills. I mean, we always had our kids involved in things, so we wanted them to be able to learn, to be hard workers, and to know how to do things. But being out here, they're learning how to do even more. Like, they've learned about everything in gardening and how seeds are formed in the fall, and about harvesting, and they get to help with like some of the canning processes. And they're learning about animals. Little man has been able to take care of a lot of the animal care from our chickens and our dogs and puppies, and like that whole animal husbandry has been really good for him to be able to learn that responsibility.
Just the other day, he was down at the playhouse, and he has some of his scrap wood and stuff down there, and he came up and he had a hinge that we had pulled off of something else, wanted to know if he could use it, and I said, nah, but you can use this other hinge, because I had kind of some plans for that other hinge. And I was just like, he's got a hinge, he's doing something with it. He came back up a little while later with this box that he had made using this scrap wood, and had a hinged lid, and it was so cool. It was just such a good little project, and definitely. And
he was so proud of it.
He was so proud of it, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely handiwork worthy of being pleased with, because especially as young as he is, being able to just take scrap wood and some screws and just a random hinge and put together this box, and he did a great job. And so just some of those kind of skills. I'm very pleased with the
skills that our kids are learning.
Yep. Curly Top loves pulling weeds. Most of the time.
Yeah. She has really enjoyed being in the garden a lot. She is always, and she loves like to eat vegetables, like raw vegetables, and so she'll go out and she'll pick like,
her own salads all the time.
Yeah, she goes out and she loves to eat kale just by the fistfuls, like unless I don't even eat kale just like plain. And she'll go out and she'll eat kale. She'll pick basil leaves and eat them. She'll pick tomatoes.
Cucumbers whenever they were
yeah,
growing.
Giggles loves going out. His favorite thing is going out and eating tomatoes. Unfortunately, he loves grabbing the green ones, which are not supposed to eat like raw.
Right. Yeah.
And so we'll have me like switching him out and be like, here, eat this one instead. And he has like tomato juices like all down his front. It's disgusting.
Yeah, super nasty. But he's loving it. He's super happy about it.
Yeah.
Which he's done with now because the tomatoes all came out today.
It's true.
We'll have to do another video about that. About where we're at with the garden. But.
So probably the one last thing that I can think of right now of things that we've experienced being here is the fact that we started out with one animal. We had a dog when we moved here, and we had plans in getting chickens within the first year. But
towards the end of that first year,
I had total plans about like having chickens as soon as we moved here, but apparently we were on the same page with that.
I thought we had discussed taking it slowly, getting a good our mind wrapped around the gardens and getting all of that kind of stuff really under control and the proper procedures and the right things moving forward.
This is the guy who's always like, let's do it.
I am not always that guy. I am the guy with the clipboard and the lists and let's get things on schedule.
Okay. Maybe I'm the let's do it
You're the let's do it person.
So anyways, so we ended up 5 months in, we ended up with a dog plus 7 puppies plus now we have 16 baby chicks.
There is a story behind
5.
this.
I'm not done. And 5. We did have 6. We have 6? We had 6 like adult chickens.
So.
But actually, we just sold most of our puppies, so we
Right.
only have a few left now. They all have happy homes now. But we still have 16 baby chicks.
So we had the chicken tractor video just recently. I felt like I was running around like a madman trying to get that up because Whitney had talked to her aunt who had some chickens that they were really getting ready to get rid of to sell. And she's like, hey, I know we talked about having chickens. What do you think about going ahead and getting some now? And I'm like, well, we don't have a place for them to be. We've got a, sort of something that can work. Let me see what we can get together. And as you saw in the video, that didn't happen even before the chickens got here. But
I didn't know that. Like, I thought we were just going to use the chicken tractor we already had. And so, like, I didn't realize that it was going to be this big project, or else I wouldn't have like been so gung-ho about doing it right away. Like, I would have given it more time, but I didn't know that we were completely redoing this chicken tractor and creating a new one.
So we recreated this new chicken tractor. I had it sized to be able to hold probably between 8 to 10 chickens. That was the idea. 8 to 10 chickens within the first year. We had 6 to start with. Through the process of getting the tractor built and moving it, one of them managed to escape, and was
our dog ate it.
It was then she did not eat it.
She killed it.
And then we took it away from her so she would eat them.
So then we had 5.
Then we had 5. So
we're like, hey.
I have a list of some things that need picked up. I was actually going to go to town and pick it up. When he's like, hey, I've already got to go to town to do this other stuff. How about I go ahead and pick up the stuff you need? I was like, sure. She's at Tractor Supply.
Well, we had already planned on getting 5 more chickens.
We'd already, yeah. And she was going to pick up 5 more chickens that would fill out the 10 that we had space for and that we already had things planned for. She arrives at Tractor Supply and I don't know what happened.
And I come home with 16 baby chicks. They were on sale. What can I say? I like a good deal. Little man
gets out of the van and is like, hey, Daddy, we've got a surprise. And I'm like, great. Did you bring me home a box of cookies or, a box of donuts or some licorice? Or, I mean, there's all these wonderful snacks that you can come home from Tractor Supply with. And they're like, no, we have 16 baby chicks. yay! And I literally did have to like take some trash. I found some trash to throw away, and I walked over to our wheelie bin.
You drive.
And I didn't drive, but I just had to take a step back for a minute and just take a breath, process exactly what had just happened, and be like, okay, we can do something about this. We can figure out how to make this work. There's still chicks, there's still babies, we've got some time.
That's what I was thinking. Like, it's not like they're full grown right now.
The coop we have is not big enough to sustain that many chickens. I will have to end up building either another coop or somehow adding on to our current coop.
We're talking about making like a run, like a fenced run for them.
And
we'll
yes,
see
enclosing.
What we decide to do.
Either permanently enclosing an area or getting some sort of movable fencing to allow them to.
See, it's
to
just
move around.
in my mind, it's just an investment. It's an investment.
It is an investment. It's an investment I think that's worth being invested in. I was not prepared for it to happen yet.
Isn't either. Hey, I didn't come home with all the chicks.
No, you didn't.
So the reason was because it was the last day or the second to last day of like their baby chick sales, and they were getting rid of all of them, and so they had them marked down super cheap. And so when I said, hey, to like the person who worked there, hey, I need help getting the baby chicks, I didn't know they were like marked down at this point, but I said, hey, I need to buy some baby chicks, and he kind of looked at me and he said, do you want all of them? I was like, maybe? Because I didn't know, I was like, he's gonna give them to me? Like, I don't know. And he goes, yeah, they're on sale. You can get however many you want. Like, if you want to get all of them, we'll give you a big box to put them in. I was like, okay. So I go back and I pick out the bigger ones. And there were 16 of them. And like, to me, like, that wasn't a big deal. I even told him, I texted him before I came home. I said, hey, I'm getting a few more chicks. I warned him. There was a warning.
I don't even think you said there. I'm getting a few more. I think you said, hey, the chicks were on sale.
I'm getting a few more. That's what I said.
Okay. To me, a few more means like two, maybe three.
Yeah. I probably should
more.
have been more specific.
So to arrive back home with, instead of 5 chicks, 16. It threw me off.
It was funny.
We're okay. We're okay. We'll have plenty of eggs. I hope. And if not, we'll have plenty of chicken.
Plenty of chicken, yep. Alright.
So that should just about wrap us up, I think.
Whew, yeah.
So there you go. A year's worth of vlogging, 5 months of living in a camper, some of the things we've learned, some of the things we've experienced. There's definitely a lot more. I mean, there's a whole lot that happens in 5 months, and we've already had a long video this time anyway. Maybe sometime we'll just sit down and just tell funny stories of things that have happened. Tell us what you like. I mean, we talked earlier, you know, we don't really know what people like to watch apparently. So what sort of things do you enjoy seeing? What sort of things have you enjoyed watching us do?
Comments, improvements, suggestions.
Yep, suggestions are welcome. We're willing to listen. Doesn't mean we're always willing to do what you suggest, but hey, we're willing to listen. We definitely want to keep having fun with this, and we are having fun doing the videos. We are having fun making them, and are going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to have fun with it, and hopefully what is fun for us to do is fun for others to watch. And we will see you next time.
Good night. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.